Did you know that to this day there's a man walking around with part of his skull that has been replaced with 3D printed plastics? This was done back in 2013. Since its introduction back in 1983 by Charles Hull, 3D printing has had so many technological advances. And I own a 3D printer myself. I use it all the time to create models of ideas I may have or parts that I may need that I can't get my hands on. And the only limitation of it is the size of the printer and my imagination. If I can design it, I can build it. Benefits of 3D printing are that there can be less waste. The technology advances help expand this field immensely, and there are so many other industries that can use it. Part of how 3D printing produces less waste is that you only use the material you need. You can make a part hollow, or you can make a part solid as you want, or as hollow as you want. There's always an in-between. Part of reducing waste is that if you're prototyping a part, say, for example, you have to prototype an axle shaft for a vehicle. You can, instead of having to start out with a bar of steel, say you start out with a 2-inch bar of steel and part of the shaft is down to 1 inch, you have to take it on a lathe and remove that material. That's waste. Whereas with a 3D printer, you can make the part bit by bit. It prints it layer by layer. So you're not starting out with a thick piece, you're starting with nothing. Just plastic on a spool or metal on a spool. And if you're prototyping, you can do a part hollow so that you can test fit or things like that. And there's less waste involved if you have to redesign. Some of the innovations are that it's not limited to plastics anymore or polymers anymore. 3D printing can be used with gold and silver to print jewelry, or it can be used to print houses. Yes, they're making 3D printed houses using concrete. And this information comes from Redshift by Autodesk, and it was written by Dana Goldberg in April of 2018. Another way that it's not limited, or another way of innovation with 3D printing, is that there are rocket scientists in the Netherlands that are 3D printing solid rocket fuel for some of the spaceships or missiles. They're trying to find a better way to create this rocket fuel. It is used so that the way the 3D printing process benefits them is they can start concentrating the energetic materials that they need in certain areas of the fuel, instead of not being able to control the burn rate with the traditional methods of making the solid rocket fuel. They can control which percentages of certain materials go where in the process. And this is from an article that was written by Keith Button in 2019 from Aerospace America. "3D printing isn't confined to just the science industry or the manufacturing industries or even the medical industries. Some of the medical uses of it are that, like I mentioned in the very beginning, the man that had his part of his skull replaced with a 3D printed plastic. And there was an 83-year-old woman back in 2012 that had part of her jaw replaced with a titanium jaw that was 3D printed. And this came from a website called Engadget, written by Mariella Moon back in June of 2014. The construction industry uses 3D printing in the way of they can 3D print houses. There is a charity called New Story Charity that 3D prints houses for homeless. It only takes 24 hours to build a home. From nothing to there being a home, they have it down to 24 hours to print this house. I think that is absolutely amazing. And they're using this process in so many other fields that I could spend all day listing them. These are just a small handful of fields. And the information about news story comes from their website. They explain what their charity is about, the different things they do, and it explains how they're giving back to the communities with their nonprofit for 3D printing. So, from reduced waste to the technological advances to the diverse industries that use this process, these are just a few of the main points and big benefits of 3D printing that I can talk about. So, I don't know about many people, but 10 years ago, I don't think there's very many that would have thought you could 3D print a house in just 24 hours.